last episode, we talked about why doing work feels so hard. This time, we're going to talk about how do we fix it. Hey, welcome to the Doing Business with ADHD podcast. Have you ever noticed how getting work feels personal, doing work feels overwhelming, getting paid feels awkward, and building wealth feels impossible? It's not because you're bad at business. It's because your business wasn't built for ADHD. Let's change the rules. All right, welcome to the Doing Business with ADHD podcast, where we're not therapists, we're not doctors, we're just two guys that have worked, have started, grown, I've even sold businesses where we have ADHD and we've had to just change the rules as we go. Now, obey the laws, bend to the rules. That's what I like to say. And we've just figured it out, and we just want to have conversations and talk about that, how it's been for us and for our clients, because we both focus on helping small businesses that have founders, leaders, owners with ADHD, and helping them be successful on their terms, not just following all the rules and feeling guilty about the rules that were given to us that didn't fit. So, is that about right, Caleb? You got anything?
I think that's, about right. I always think of we probably talked in like episode 1 a little bit about it, just trying to play Monopoly all kinds of different ways, and like, oh, it's a race. No, it's a property buying game. Nope, I can play it like a race. Like, I don't know. That's how we play life, though, is we just constantly are trying to change the rules, and I think that usually works because life was not built for us, and if we were the majority of the population, we'd probably build a world that didn't work for neurotypicals. So, it's just kind of how life goes, and we just have to play by our own rules.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. Sorry, chasing a rabbit right there. I'm going to get the game of life out and play it with my family because I want to see how they all approach actually the game of life, the board game. Anyway, so on topic here. What we were kind of talking about was doing work. There's get work, do work, get paid, grow wealth. And we're focusing right now on doing work. And we talked about like you sell it and then you dread having to actually do the work. And a lot of the times what I've found I've worked with a few hundred small business owners that have ADHD at this point. And what we've noticed is that if you understand these 6 clusters of executive function, that you really figure out where is the friction that's causing this. And what I found is when we get to doing work, what happens is all of this friction jams up at the beginning. We talked about it in the last episode. And we see all this friction. It just builds up at the front. And then our executive functions are these 6 buckets. And when one of those buckets goes bankrupt, it kind of dominoes the next bucket. Like they start having to compensate and they overflow, or they drain from each other. And everything just starts to fall apart. It's just like dominoes. All of the systems start to, air, overheat, like everything goes bad. All these mixed metaphors, all of it's happening, very sad. And makes me angry. And for years, I would only know that things were going wrong when my emotions, which is actually the 4th one in my sequence, when my emotional dysregulation would happen. That is the point where I would realize things were off. And you go, that's the 4th out of 6. That means a lot of dominoes, a lot of problem has happened, like everything, we were way off the tracks before I even realized it. So Caleb mentioned this. I have I call it the brain fiction score. And it just helps you. You just self-identify which ones. It's free. You identify which of the executive functions is showing up the most in your life. Which friction is showing up the most. So I'm going to break them down. The 6 and how I see them showing up in business. And what are things you can do about it. Anything you want to add before I dive in, Caleb?
Yeah, no, I'm just pumped to hear them all listed again. And like I said, I never got around to finishing that tool, but I saw I think you showed me the back office results of it. And like, this is amazing. I really need this in my life. And then, on to the next thing.
If you take it, it's real quick. It's free.
Yeah.
It doesn't log any information anywhere. Like you take it, it gives you, like, you'll get emails with all your scores. And then you get a couple emails with just, tips for overcoming that first executive function, that first friction point. So the 6 are, again, these are based on Dr. Brown, no relation, on his clusters of executive functions. He's like the most psychiatrists view him as the expert in executive function, and his work is kind of the foundational of how we understand and how education and how colleges and everybody helps us fit the system. Because I don't have it with me, but there's this like six-sided block, and the idea is like, the square peg round hole. If you have like a hexagon and you're trying to jam it into a circle or into a square, like there are going to be points where it has friction. And what happens is if you go in and like one side hits, then most likely it's going to bounce into the other sides. And that's how our executive function, like you hit friction and then friction and then friction, and they trigger each other. Because in the neurotypical world, it's one system. But in the neurodivergent and ADHD, they're different. They're friction points for us. And they trigger each other, but we don't actually think or operate them necessarily at the same time. So, to line them back out, or to list them out again, they're activation, focus, effort, emotion, memory, and action. And a quick definition of each of them. I'm going to run through just a real quick definition. Activation is just starting. Like, here's a task. I know how to do it. I've seen me do it before. I know what to do. It's easy. It won't take me long. It's that email that it took, the email that takes 2 minutes to write, but it took you 3 weeks to decide to write the email. Like, that's activation. It's just that, not the oomph to start. Focus is we're really good at concentrating, but picking which thing we concentrate on. That's focus. And it's kind of that decision. It's that getting into the thing. Effort is usually the long haul in the finishing. Like, once we start a task, like you start a project, and once, for me, I know I'll get into it, and once I know that I can do it, I'm like, oh yeah, I would be able to do this if I finished, but it's not worth finishing. Like, that's effort. That's when my effort bottoms out. I like to think of it's the back half, where the work just becomes the messy middle, boring work. Okay, and then emotion, that one it's emotional dysregulation. A lot of times that's when overwhelm, frustration, and anger tend to kind of rear their head. And for me, that one is, if I get to that point, it's because other things have fallen apart. Mm. Like, I'm off the rails, and that's kind of my body. That's the moment that I go, okay, yeah, all the fireworks, red flags, everything's going off, and I'm like, oh, hold on. Let's back this up a little bit. Next one, memory, working memory. Think of this as this is juggling all the stuff, all the ideas, all the remembering to remember. All of that stuff is working memory. It's just like on your computer, you've got your hard drive, and then you've got your processor. And the processor is juggling everything that's currently open. That's what our working memory does, is it's juggling all the stuff. And then action. That is kind of regulating the actions that you take. Like, a lot of times it's like we will respond fast. And it's almost like we jump straight into taking action before we make any decisions, before we, you act, and then it's like, I know that was the wrong choice. Like, I didn't even think. I didn't even have 2 beats to think. I just acted. I kept moving. And for me, a lot of times I think we very rarely make the best decision or the wisest decision in motion. If we are sprinting full speed ahead, we rarely make the best decision in the big picture. We make the decision that removes the most friction in the moment. A lot of times, especially with ADHD, we tend to do that. Okay, so I know I covered those really, really fast. If any of those stood out to you and you say, this is the one that, I see that friction the most. The way I would say working memory, where most people actually, they don't see it in their work as much as they do. If they're stressed out, they put stuff places. Where did I put my phone? Where did I lay this? Where was that? What was I talking about? I forgot what I was talking about mid-sentence. If that's happening a lot, that's because working memory is overtaxed. Then we go, okay, how do we add more cushion, or how do we externalize things in your life or in your work? So, for instance, activation. If you're having trouble starting things, I kind of have 3 tools that I lean to, and I like to teach people. I like to help them. One of them is it's called a dopamine menu. And the idea is how do you just get a little jolt of dopamine? Some people use caffeine. Some people like take some deep breaths, jump up and down, listen to 90s grunge music. I like, what is it for you? Some people it's sunshine. Like, what is something that just, if you have a list, I used to have a post-it note and I would just list out several things that were not cheap dopamine, not like sugar, not, something that I'm going to crash hard afterwards. But what's just something that adds happiness? What gets that dopamine in your brain? What is something that's just a little bit of fun? For me, it's always fun. And if I can do that, sometimes I do jump squats. I just jump as high as I can in the air, like 5 times. It gets my heart racing, I'm breathing fast, and it just, my brain just drops dopamine. It's like, okay, here we go. I can tackle anything if I jump up and down like a 3-year-old boy or 7-year-old boy. Like, that works for me. So if you have that dopamine menu, what happens is when you're, oh man, I just can't start this. What can I grab to get the right fuel? The next one is, I call it just 2 minutes. And the idea is, okay, I'm going to start this task, but I only have to try for 2 minutes. Because what happens is, if you can start and try for 2 minutes, most likely you're going to get into a rhythm. But you also have that exit of 2 minutes to where it's like, at the end of 2 minutes, I don't have to try anymore. I have my exit strategy. That one has been huge for me, and a lot of people like it. I also like using that with records, like actual vinyl records, where it's like, oh, I'm only going to do one song. And I start working, and the next thing I know, it's like pop, pop, pop. Got to flip the record over. And that helps me keep moving, getting into the tasks and stuff. Another one for activation is I call it set the stage. Or like in cooking, it's mise en place. The idea is like, is your space ready to start the task? Not to decide to start the task. Like, a lot of times I will set up, if I need to type an email, if I need to do something, I will set it up to where when I open my laptop, that's the only thing there. Clear the space. If I'm going to go take a break and come back to it, like, the idea is I don't have to set up the task, I can just get into the task. And that will help remove some of that resistance from starting.
That's huge.
And then, moving next on to focus, this one becomes very important of separating deciding and doing. Like, if you can set a calendar, if you can say, in the morning I'm going to do admin work, in the afternoon I'm going to take calls. And these are the calls that I have to make. Or I have to follow up with people. If you can block things, like, the idea is that you want to make a decision and then it lasts forever. It's kind of this blanket decision, a high-level decision, so that you can just show up and do the right work. Another one is removing distractions. So, like, is your space, are you providing distractions that are going to take you away? Or are you actually making it to where the choosing to make the right decision, to the choosing what you're going to focus on, choosing what actions you're going to take? If you have to choose in the moment, you're really draining that focus bucket really fast. But if you've already decided and now you're just taking the actions, it's a whole lot easier. And especially batch or what some people have, I'm trying to think. Michael Hyatt used to call it, it wasn't routines, rituals.
Yeah, rituals.
And it's this idea where basically it's like habits that are stacked. It's like you get into the rhythm and it goes, well, you made the decisions over here, and then you got in the habit, and now you're not choosing what to do, you're just flowing into it. That's the idea. So that's kind of focus. That one is, I think, it's the easiest one to like know how to work on it, but it is very hard to work on. Because you make a decision and then you just have to honor it. And that's kind of boring to like just keep doing the same thing because I already decided to do it. You almost have to be very stubborn and try to prove that it's not going to work. And then when it does work, you go, okay, I kind of like it. Like, that's kind of how I found working on focus friction. Okay, effort. This one is just about finishing. And what I have, the kind of main ways I like to think about effort is, if you take any job or any task and say, can I break it into laps? Can it be smaller things that are doable? And can I just come back to it? Can I get into a rhythm where they're just smaller laps? Like, so the whole project's the race, but are there just smaller laps that I can do to knock out? And then to help with that, I found that a controlled space can be very, very helpful. And also co-working or body doubling can be helpful. So for me, when I say controlled space, I use noise-canceling headphones a lot. Sometimes I have music, sometimes I'm just noise-canceling because I just need to not be distracted. So it's like, that's it. And then temperature is actually one that I've found over the last couple of years. It actually makes a big difference for me. If I'm too cold or too hot, like, good luck getting me to finish a project. I'm sitting there, my brain is just complaining about the temperature or whatever else. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh
if it's
yeah.
too cold, like today is a nice sunny day, and I'm like, man, I would love to be outside. Well, I'm a little bit cold. Let me put on a flannel shirt. Okay, now I can get work done. Like, it's just one of those things that knowing that my space isn't full of distractions. Like I said, sound, temperature, lighting. A lot of people have lighting issues where it's like fluorescent lighting is horrible for a lot of people. When it comes to that effort friction, like you're just having trouble kind of from the middle to the end, just getting into the keep going on the tasks and finish a task. It's like, okay, those are the ways that I would address those first. Those are kind of my first tips. Emotion. Yeah, if you're getting to emotional dysregulation, the first thing I ask is like, is something else triggering this? Is there another friction that happened first? Because a lot of times, especially in adults, that's usually what's happening is our tanks are empty, and that one's just the first one that is external. The rest of them are more internal. But I found that thinking of like approaching everything as things and tasks, not relationships, not other people, just focusing on things and tasks can remove the emotion out of a lot of situations, especially when it's feedback. If it's feedback, it's words to tasks. Like if a client gives you feedback or if they even give you like criticism or something like that, okay, can that become words and tasks? Like if we can remove the people and relationship out of it for a moment. The other thing, obviously, anything like stepping away, taking some breaths, resetting, and then think about, are you trying to do high tide work at low tide? Because if you're trying to do that, your emotions are probably going to get triggered a lot faster. And then with emotions, I found a lot of times that expectations. You look at it and you go, do I have, and that goes to those, are you doing high tide work at low tide? Do I have unrealistic expectations? Am I getting frustrated because I'm expecting unfair things? Or I have allowed somebody else to expect unfair things. I've sold something that I actually, set myself up to have a lot of frustration or overwhelm. And then another time, this is another place that dopamine menu can show up well. If you're getting overloaded, well, a breath, taking a walk. What can help you get some dopamine? Because dopamine is going to, a lot of times when you get into the emotional stuff, serotonin and stress and all that stuff starts to flood into your brain. Well, it's like, how can we get dopamine? How can we get kind of the happy, the calm, positive? How can we get that in there? A lot of times, I've heard a lot of people say that if they get to this point with emotion, they like to say a quick prayer. And I will tell you, for me, I've tried to say quick prayers and stuff like that, but it actually doesn't work for me so much because then I feel like I'm failing at praying, and it's like, right, like this isn't working at all. But that idea of it is hard for me to get to that point where that's okay. But like I said, some people that I know, that's their go-to. That's kind of part of their dopamine menu. They're like, hey, if I'm feeling off, this is where I start. And I'm like, that's great. Working memory. The idea is to externalize everything. Calendars, notes, everything that you feel like you're having to remember or you're remembering to remember, put it somewhere where it's safe so that you can then focus on what you're doing. A lot of times, even with my kids, it's like I have to write notes and put them aside so that I can be with the kid. Or before I go to bed, it's like, or if I'm in a meeting with somebody, I have paper next to me all the time because I can put something there and it's safe. I don't have to carry it. I can stay in this conversation and I can just catch the things over here and I can return to them at a later time. And that has been huge for my working memory. Same thing with audio notes. Even if I'm driving or something like that, a lot of times I'll just hit record and I can talk out loud and then I can process it or I can have AI process and decide if it's actually worth anything or put it in a linear, bullet format that could be useful later. But I don't have to feel afraid that I'm going to lose my brilliance or I'm going to forget to remember something later. Same thing with calendars and things like that. And another thing that I really love in my workflow is on Google Chrome, they have tab groups. And what I'll do is a project that I'm working on, I can open all the tabs for that project or whatever I need. And then if it's in a tab group, you can close the whole window. And then next time you open that tab group, they all open to the spot where you were. So it's not running your processor. You don't have 14,000 windows and, whatever, or 30 tabs on 18 windows open. You can just have one window, close it, open it back up, and it's all where it's supposed to be. And I don't know. I get so happy. Like, I just laugh. I'm just like, yay! Like, it worked. It's like magic. It all pops back up, and I'm like, that's where I was. But I found a lot of people. So if I'm working with clients, I actually have a tab group for each client that I'm actively working with. So as I'm working on their projects, I talked about that mise en place, like having your setup. I can open that tab, and it's right where I am with that client. And I can close it, go to another client. Like, I can go between clients and remember right where I was. Because, I'm talking like it will open up the web page and be scrolled down to the point where I was. The Google Doc will open up right where I was typing. And I'm like, just that, not having to figure out where I was, not feeling lost all the time has been huge. Okay, I'm done fanboying over Google tab groups. But if you're not using them, check them out. They were kind of life-changing for me here recently. And the last one is action. And the idea here is it's like your actions going up and down, being in control of the actions that you take. And I would say, if you can do the tides, we talk about ADHD tides, when am I high tide, when am I low tide, and set expectations. If you expect yourself to be slow or to not have a lot in the tank, then plan accordingly. Then you're not going to you're not going to get into a situation where you feel like you have to have unrealistic expectations of your actions. You're going to expect less work to get done. You're going to expect to have a little bit slower start, like Monday morning. We're shifting from a weekend schedule that we just got used to back to the work schedule, and that Monday morning is a little bit hard. So I try to say, I can't expect much of myself at that first ramp up. I have to buffer something in there. So for action, those tides and expectations, and then separating deciding and doing. Like, if you're saying, if we can't trust our impulse actions, if we can't trust that we're going to do the right thing, well, then we have to make the decision at a high tide. We have to make a decision outside of that motion. So separating them, even if it's like a weekly planning, like your weekly preview, your weekly planning, or when you close out the day, you say, okay, this is the first thing I'm going to work on in the morning. Because if you just expect yourself to wake up Tuesday morning and do the hard work, you're not going to.
Right.
But if you decide Monday afternoon, I'm going to do it, I'm blocking off that hour on my calendar, you show up on Tuesday and it's already set up, you're very likely to do the right thing if that's the path of least resistance. And then the last thing for action is using music. A lot of people have, I do it, it just seems to be a very common thing. If you want to have more up-tempo work, up-tempo music. If you need to focus more, don't have words. Like soundtracks are amazing because they don't have words. So you can have fast, slow, all kinds of different music going, and it's not all classical. It's like all kinds of different music. But if you listen to the soundtrack, it typically doesn't have words, so it's not distracting. You're not shifting over here, or you're not like trying to type an email to a client and then randomly putting, lyrics from the song into the email. Done that a lot. So Those are kind of a blast of tips. And you think, where is work? Where are you feeling the most friction? And then think about where are you? And of those 6 points, you say, okay, which one do you feel, take the assessment or just think through the 6, where are you feeling the most friction? Where is it coming up most commonly? And then you go, okay, what can I do to tweak, to just alleviate the friction that I'm feeling there? My first one is always activation. That's the first one where I get the most friction, just starting the thing. But once I figured out just 2 minutes, I'm telling myself, oh, you can be off the hook. Just give it 2 minutes and then you can quit. And I never, I've been doing this for over a year, and I never at 2 minutes quit. Because I trick myself to get over that hump, and once I'm into a task, I'm crushing it. I'm focused. A lot of times I'm hyper-focused. I get into it, and it's just easy to keep moving on the task. But that weird idea of, I can quit in 2 minutes, for whatever reason, it just works, and it has worked, and it continues to work for me. And I don't know how many people I've told this, but So when activation, for me, activation is the first one. Um, anyway,
Yeah,
do any of
that's
those
huge.
ring with you?
Yeah, I mean, like you got me on that activation one probably a year ago, I think, almost. That's been massive for me. Just using music sometimes. Either that's when Bach or Mozart tend to show up a little bit for me. It's like, all right, I'm just going to put this on. That means I actually have to kind of look serious and sophisticated and do sophisticated work because I'm
Yep.
listening to sophisticated music right now. That I don't really know any like.
Yeah.
I can't help my 7-year-old do his piano homework in the least. I don't know what a note is. I don't know what a clef or I think of like a chin or like something in a right. I don't really even know. But literally no music, but it just helps get me in that zone to initiate or just set in the 2-minute
Yeah.
timer, come back to it. But yeah, I would just say like these are all things that resonate with me. I feel like they probably all resonate with any of you listening today, and we just want to leave the invitation out there. Like, drop a comment in whatever platform you're listening to us now on, and just say, "Oh, yeah, this is the one that I'm dealing with," or any tips for this one. And not that we can always get back to every single comment anywhere or anything. We tend to be pretty active, both of us on LinkedIn, though, so feel free to hit us up there. But yeah, these are all like super duper normal. Like I see this in every single client I work with too, and try to. It's a little trickier because I feel like Jake, you get deeper into the ADHD weeds with clients more, or like I go there too, but I'm not always approaching it with like a diagnosis, depending on the channel that this client's found me in. They very easily can be an undiagnosed person, and then it's like a little bit of a dance. You're like, okay, I know something about you, you don't. Here's how I can kind of help coach you through that, and then you see the fruit of that a little bit. Or like this one is what's hanging them up right now. Here's the friction. Let's kind of grease that little point of the hexagon that's not slipping through the square hole right
Yep.
now. But yeah, it's so these are so big just to really ace these all, figure out what's sticking for you, and figure it out.
It's great. Yeah, it's taken a lot of pain from other people, and then like I said, a lot of reading. Like it's all based on Dr. Brown stuff, and then it's like my pain, my family, like everybody I've seen, people that I've worked with, employees I've had, my
Yeah,
clients. It's kind of like it has always held true. And to what you mentioned, the diagnosis, like I don't care if people have a diagnosis of ADHD or whatever. The whole thing of the brain friction is like if you're feeling this friction, it's a real thing. You can work on it. Um, if you have ADHD, if you think you might have ADHD, I don't care. Just if you're feeling these pains, welcome to the club. Let's
yeah,
see what we can do about it. That's kind of how I view it. Um, I really don't, but I don't know. But a lot of my clients, a lot of the people that run in circles with me, there's a lot of late diagnosed ADHD where we might not have been the problem kid in school, but now that we're an adult and our kid gets diagnosed and we understand what ADHD is, like most people, it's like a kid got diagnosed and then the brochure and either the mom, the dad, or somebody's reading the brochure and they go, "Hang on a second," like that seems to be
your wife's
very
like,
common.
wait a second, this is you.
Hey, have you ever read this stuff before? um,
Yeah,
but yeah, that adult diagnosed ADHD is pretty common, and then people that are just kind of like, "Oh yeah, I felt that too." Um, Man, like I said, welcome to the club. Let's figure out these are tools that can work for anybody. So anyway, I know we want
yeah.
to keep these short. We need to hop off. But oh hey, we've never done this. You want to close us out, Kip? Ask people to like, subscribe, whatever the stuff. What do real podcasts ask people to do?
Yeah, I feel like we're obliged to do that. So yeah, if you're listening to this, by all means, hit like, subscribe, find us on our website, sign up for emails, et cetera, et cetera. This actually helps you find the podcast more. The goal is that if you like what we're putting out there, we want to train the algorithms to send more of it to you, and you can tell them to do that by liking or subscribing. Then you can get more content from us here. Jake, I might just have to start calling you Dr. Brown from now on, though.
Nope. My brother has his PhD, but I do not. So I was
Oh, there
done
you
with
go.
school as soon as I could be. So
Good man.
well,
Yeah.
well,
Thank you though for those of you still listening to us at this early stage in the podcast. It means a lot. We do appreciate that, and above all, hopefully this is just helpful. This turns out to be nothing more than just a passion project between two friends who specialize in this industry and this type of person. And it will have been worth it to have impacted somebody out there. But there's a lot more that we have planned here.
all right. Well, thanks for listening, and remember, it's your business. You get to rewrite the rules. Hey, welcome to the Doing Business with ADHD podcast. Have you ever noticed how getting work feels personal, doing work feels overwhelming, getting paid feels awkward, and building wealth feels impossible? It's not because you're bad at business. It's because your business wasn't built for ADHD. Let's change the rules.